it play and call it work.
Hey there guys, Quirk here from MiniWarGaming.com, and well, I'm here to give you a Custodes Codex review. I know it's really late. I know you guys have probably been like, oh, it's past the point, we don't care anymore, we've already got a new book out, but there's been enough of you asking me to do some sort of review on this book, so I'm gonna do it. Now, right off the hop, before I even open the book or look at anything really quick, I've seen a couple reviews out there saying that this book is not very good. I'm going to disagree with you on that one, and you're more than welcome to start commenting, saying things about it, your personal opinions. That's totally fine, but I've gone through this book a couple of times, looked at a few different things, and I'm actually starting up my own little Custodes army because two reasons. One, it's incredibly cheap to start an army because it's a very low model count, and two, they have some of the coolest tricks I've ever seen. Now, there's a couple things that you have to do to actually get these tricks to work, but they are like Eldar Ynnari style, pulling off some skills here with throwing stuff in and out of transports. So just throwing that out there right now. Now obviously you can't throw stuff in and out of transports with this one, but let's go ahead and take a look at this book. Now the first thing you're going to see when you get into it is just a whole lot of fluff on the Custodes, giving you a little background on what they've been up to for the past 10,000 years. And I don't have the time or the patience to try and explain everything, but essentially what they've been up to is sweet. But moving on, you got all the different artwork of all the new models that are coming out. You got the Wardens, you've got Valoris, you've got the new Terminators, you've got the new bikes. Oh, the bikes look sweet. Oh, the bikes look amazing. So they've got all this new stuff coming out, or you've already started working on it. I've already started working on it myself. I've got like my new captain guy, or Valoris right here. Oh, super cool, painted him up. He's actually going to be in the battle report that I've recently filmed. And then I've also got a shield guard captain on a bike, which again, is sweet, and you can do some really crazy tricks with this guy. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and jump straight into the first things about these guys and how awesome they are. Now again, people are already commenting to me like, you don't know what you're talking about. They're not awesome. They are sweet. You can't change my opinion on that one. So starting off just by being Custodes, they have something called the Aegis of the Emperor, which is a twofold ability. First one is that all models with the ability have a 5-up invulnerable save. That's pretty sweet right off the hop. Just having a 5-up invulnerable save, pretty much everything in this army has 2 wounds or more, and being able to have a 33% chance of just straight up ignoring damage is awesome. On top of that, they actually have some sort of way of mitigating some of the damage that can actually come from the psychic phase. In addition, roll a d6 each time a model with this ability suffers a mortal wound in the psychic phase. On a 6, that wound is ignored. Take that, mortal wound throwing armies. So absolutely like that. The fact that you have a 16% chance of just stopping some of those mortal wounds. If somebody throws 3 at you, you roll 3 dice, you have a 33% chance. No, you still have a 16% chance, but 3 of them. Anyway, you have a very good chance of mitigating one of those mortal wounds. So very, very cool right there. Just a nice little way to keep the guys that are super tough to kill even harder to kill. Moving on from that, we have Captain General Trajan Valoris. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that first name wrong, but anyway, this guy looks amazing as a model, and his stats are even more amazing. So first off, he's got a movement value of 6, weapon skill ballistic skill 2, which you're going to see pretty much across the entire model line is that they have weapon skill ballistic skill of 2+. So good. Strength 5, toughness 5. Again, everything in this army, minimum toughness 5. That is awesome, especially considering there's nothing in this book that has a single wound. Just everything has toughness 5, toughness 6, 3 to 4 wounds, so on and so forth. That is awesome. Makes them super hard to kill. I understand why they cost so many points, but on top of that, the fact that you can have a guy like this taking a last cannon shot to the face and have to wound on a 3, that's good. That's good right there. He has 7 wounds. 7 wounds! That's like bordering on Guilliman there. He's like 2 wounds shy of being on Guilliman's level, but still has just crazy amounts of ability. So 2+ save, leadership 10, that's expected, 5 attacks, okay. He has a weapon called the Watcher's Axe. And one thing that's really cool about this entire book is that every single weapon that you see is a melee weapon and a shooting weapon combined. So they actually have in brackets the shooting profile and the melee profile. So the shooting profile on the Watcher's Axe is a 24-inch range, rapid fire 1, strength 5, AP -1, 2 damage apiece. Just firing that for the sake of firing that is awesome. So he also has the Watcher's Axe melee profile, which is strength ×2, putting him at strength 10, -3 AP, and D3 damage. With the 5 attacks there, hitting on 2s, and then probably wounding on 3s, most likely wounding on 2s unless you're higher than strength or toughness 5. That's pretty awesome. Cutting straight through the armor at -3, even if you have a 2-up save, you're up to a 5-up save, which puts you probably on par with your invulnerable save if you're talking about things like Terminators. he's just going to cut right through them. It's not even that big of a deal. He has the Aegis of the Empire, so Aegis of the Emperor, so he naturally has that 5-up invulnerable save. He has that 6-up ignoring mortal wounds in the psychic phase, but he also has the Aramite Halo. He has a 3-up invulnerable save, so now he's got a 66% chance of just straight up ignoring damage because of that invuln. It's pretty awesome. Also has a ability here called the Legendary Commander. You can reroll hit rolls and wound rolls of one made by friendly Adeptus Custodes units within 6 inches of him. That includes himself. So now with the Watcher's Axe, he's hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, wounding on 3s if you're higher than toughness 5, probably wounding on 2s, rerolling those 1s again at -3 and D3 damage apiece. He has no negative for wielding a weapon that is ×2 strength. Sweet! Then he also has a ability here called Moment Shackle, where once per game, if he's on the battlefield, you can do one of the following. And the 3 items that he has here, first off, you can regain D3 wounds lost during this phase. So you can't do it if you're doing an attack or if he's been slain. So you can't be like, oh, he died, well, I'm going to get D3 wounds back. No, you can't do that. But say he gets a hit by a last cannon and the last cannon manages to sneak through and do 6 damage. He's down to 1. You know what? I don't like having him down to 1 wound. Let's give him at least an extra 1. Roll that D3. You can get an extra. You can get it back up to 2, possibly up to 4. Definitely mitigates damage. That's probably the worst one of the 3 on here. The next one here is at the end of the fight phase, pile in an attack with him as an additional time. What? So essentially, in the fight phase, you're going to get 10 attacks out of this guy, hitting on 2s, probably wounding on 2s, -3, doing D3 damage. That's going to cut through so much stuff. It is ridiculous. Again, probably not the best one, because the last one that he has here is regain up to D3 command points spent when you use a stratagem, but no more than were spent on the stratagem. When you actually looked at the book as a whole, they are very difficult as an army to get a ton of command points, but the fact that you have this ability in there to give you those command points back is awesome. They also have the Imperium keyword, so you could throw somebody like Guilliman in there, make him your warlord, because this doesn't require him to be the warlord, but you can throw Guilliman in there, make him your warlord. Now whenever you spend a command point, you have a chance of getting it back, so you can go ahead and spend a command point that costs 3, roll this, get that many back, and then roll on a 5-up getting those 3 command points back. That all stacks. So you're going to be able to get more command points than what you started with potentially, which is awesome. So, but that is Valoris. He is a absolute awesome model. He's a crazy expensive cost though. Like, I think he's maybe 100 points shy of Guilliman. So that should give you some perspective right there. Next up, we have the Shield Captain. Now, the Shield Captain comes in 3 different variations. You've got him just regular on foot in the regular Custodian armor. You've got him in the Custodian Terminator armor, the Alaris Terminator armor, and you've also got him on a Dawn Eagle jet bike, which is the way I have him right now on his jet bike. When I get to the stuff that they can do, it gets ridiculous. But anyway, so a Shield Captain has identical stats to Valoris, except he has 1 less leadership and 1 less wound. Otherwise, exactly the same. What? Sweet. Okay. With that, you can also go ahead and give him either a Guardian Spear, a Sentinel Blade, or a Castellan Axe. Now, the Castellan Axe and the Guardian Spear have the exact same profile for shooting. It's strength 4, -1, 2 damage. Or you can go ahead and use or you can actually switch over to the melee profile, where the Guardian Spear is +1 strength, -3 AP, D3 damage, whereas the Guardian Axe is +3 strength. Puts him at strength 8 at -2 and D3 damage. So you're swinging around at strength 8, just cutting through stuff. That is pretty sweet right there. And then with the Sentinel Blade, you take a Sentinel Blade and the shield, and it gives him a pistol to 12-inch range, strength 4, AP nothing, 1 damage, or strength user, AP -3, D3 damage in melee. But the shield gives him a 3-up invulnerable save. So that's pretty awesome right there. Now, as I go through the book, one thing to note, there is nothing in this book that will give you better than a 3-up invulnerable save. I've tried to figure out different ways of doing it. The best you're going to get is that 3-up invuln, because everything that improves your invulnerable save maxes it out at 3. So keep that in mind as I'm going through all this. One other thing that is available to pretty much everybody in here is, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, I'm sorry, even including Valoris here, they have something called the Misericordia. Misery. It's a blade. It's just an extra little blade that they have there. I think it's like 5 points or something like that to give it to a model. It's strength user, AP -2, 1 damage. But the thing is, if you take it, you get an extra attack with this weapon. So even though they have an attack profile of like 5, 6, 3, 4, whatever, even after they've done all their attacks with their weapon, they still get to get 1 little quick jab in with that knife, which is kind of cool. Special abilities that he has also has Ages of the Emperor, which is awesome. Has Inspirational Fighter, where very similar to Legendary Commander that Valoris has, you can reroll ones made by, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 made by Adeptus Custodes within 6 inches of this model, which is kind of cool. And again, if you give him the Storm Seal, he has a 3-up invuln, so just, again, keep that in mind. Jumping over from him just on foot, we've got him in the Terminator armor. Bumps his wounds up to 7, so it puts him on par stat-wise with Valoris, aside from his leadership being 1 less. Weapons and everything that you can take, the exact same. He can also take the Ballistus Grenade Launcher, which is a 12-inch range, Assault D3, Strength 4, AP -3, 1 damage grenade launcher. What? So that's kind of cool right there. Oddly enough, giving him Terminator armor does not lower his movement. So that's kind of cool right there. Normally when you put somebody in Terminator armor, they lose like an inch or 2 of movement, or they have to... whenever they advance, they have to take whatever they roll, divide it by half. You're looking at Cataphractii armor. Nope, doesn't affect them whatsoever. Again, can take the exact same war gear that he could without the Terminator armor, except he also has access to that grenade launcher. And then he also has an ability from Golden Light, which is essentially just you can deep strike him. When you set him up in a teleportarium, and at the end of any of your movement phases up till turn 3, you can deep strike him in, land him on the board, 9 inches away from enemy models, and you're pretty sweet right there. But there's ways in this book to do stuff better than that, and I can't wait to get to it. But I'm still going to go through everything we have in here. So that's it for him in Terminator armor. When we look at him on the Dawn Eagle jet bike, oh, I get tingly just thinking about the stats on this. First off, movement value of 14 inches. What? You're going to get a guy who's that strong going 14 inches up the board? Okay, sure, why not? Bumps his toughness up to toughness 6. Ugh. Still gets to keep the 7 wounds, still has the 5 attacks, still has the 2-up save, still has the 5-up invuln save, and then on top of that, the bike itself can take a Hurricane Launcher, which is a 24-inch range, rapid fire 6, strength 4, AP nothing, 1 damage attack. Rapid fire 6, if you're within 12 inches, that's firing 12 shots, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, because he has the ability that lets reroll 1s when you're within 6 inches of him, including himself. So that's just ridiculous. The melee weapon, he loses the option of taking the axe or the spear. He actually takes something called the Interceptor Lance, which is strength +1, so he goes up to strength 6, AP -3, and D3 damage. Special ability on this is that when you charge with this weapon, you get to re-roll failed wounds. What? So you can go ahead and reliably charge something that you're wounding on 5s and get a good number of wounds in there. That's just unheard of, but still you can do it, because again, you're hitting on 2s with that lance, which means all 5 attacks, mathematically you should get all 5 hits. Then wounding on 5s, re-rolling, means that you should get 3 of those to wound, as opposed to the like 1.5 or something like that you normally would. So pretty sweet right there. But you can also take the Dawn Eagle and switch out the Hurricane Bolter for something called the Salvo Launcher, which has 2 different profiles. The first one is a Melta Missile, 24-inch range, heavy 1, strength 8, -4, D6 damage, and if you're firing out a vehicle, you can re-roll to wound. So now it's heavy 1, so if you move, you're hitting on 3s, still re-rolling that 1, and it's strength 8, so you're going to be wounding things like Land Raiders on 4s, and it's a vehicle, so you get to re-roll that. -4 to the save means even with a 2-up save, you're still needing a 6-up to make that save, or relying on an invuln, and then you're getting the D6 damage off on that. That is sweet. The other weapon profile it has is the Flak Burst Missile. Now normally when you see a Flak Missile of any kind, it's like, oh, D6 damage, D6 attacks, it's strength 4 or 5, whatever. Nope, this one is D3, so half as many, but you're at strength 7, AP -1, and D3 damage. The kicker for this is that you get to add 1 to all hit rolls made with this weapon that target anything that can fly. Assault Marines, jet bikes, Eldar, pretty much anything. Flyers, you get to negate their -1 to hit. This also counters a lot of the stuff that Eldar have right now that give you the -1, like Altiok. So if something has the fly keyword and something else that gives them a -1, or spending a stratagem that says, you know what, it has the fly keyword, it's -1 to hit, you can go, I get +1 to hit, so it mitigates that. I'm still hitting you on 2s. Okay, 3s, sorry, because you moved because it's heavy, but 3s rerolling 1s. Absolutely sweet. The downside to it, though, is that you have to subtract 1 from hit rolls made with this weapon that target all other targets, so essentially you're hitting on 4s if you're shooting anything on the ground. It's kind of a half and half with that one. But still absolutely awesome. And then on top of all of that, it's a movement 14 bike with Implacable Vanguard, where when this model advances, you just automatically go 6 inches. You don't have to roll for it, just go 6 inches. The thing flies 20 inches. It can go 20 inches just up the board. So good. But all right, so that's it for the 2 2 HQ choices. Technically you have 4 in here because you have Valoris and then 3 variations of a Shield Guard Captain. Let's move on from the HQ choices to the troop choices. We have the Custodian Guard. Now if anybody's looked in the index, you pretty much know what these guys already do. They haven't changed at all since then. Still maintain the same weapon profile, or sorry, still maintain the same stat profile, which is 6-inch movement, weapon skill, ballistic skill 2+, strength toughness 5, 3 wounds, 3 attacks, and a 2-up save with leadership 8. Again, they have the Age of the Empire, Emperor, so they have the 5-up invulnerable save. And then on top of that, they can still take the Guardian Spear, the Sentinel Blade, and the blade comes with a shield, so it gives them the 3-up invulnerable save. That's pretty stat right there. There's nothing really new with them. We've seen that before. The only difference is that now it actually doesn't say 5-up invulnerable save. It has something else, just rules-wise, that gives it to them. So, moving on from the Custodian Guard. This is an older unit, so we already know what it does. Let's jump over to the Wardens. Now, the Wardens have the exact same profile and weapon options as the Custodian Guard. The main difference here is that they have an extra attack, they have an extra leadership, and they have an ability called Binding Oaths, where every time you take a wound, whenever this model loses a wound, so it doesn't say when it suffers a wound or mortal wound, just whenever it loses a wound, doesn't matter how that happens, you roll a d6, and on a 6, that damage is ignored and the wound is not lost. Just a built-in feel no pain for these guys who are currently, toughness 5, 3 wounds apiece, 2-up armor save, 5-up invulnerable save. They can take the one thing they can't do is they can't take the Sentinel Blade and the shield, so they can't have the 3-up invulnerable save with the Sentinel Blade. So just one thing to note there, but they can still walk around with the Castellan Axe, which is the strength +3, AP -2, D3 damage. So they're just hacking away at stuff. Absolutely sweet with that one. Moving on from the Wardens, which is an elite choice, to another elite choice, we have the Valoris Praetor. Now, this is the Valoris Praetor in the Alarian Terminator armor. So he's going to have a toughness 5, 6 wounds. Everything else is the exact same. 4 attacks, 2+ save. He has the grenade launcher, but he also has the Custodes Vasila, which has 3 different profiles that you can pick at the beginning of the game what they do. And each of them are essentially... he also has the Terminator armor, so he can deep strike in just like all the other Terminators can. But he has the 3 different options that you can take. The first one is the Vasila Imperus, where Adeptus Custodes models other than vehicles add 1 to their attack characteristics once they're within 6 inches of a friendly him. They also have the Valeris Defensor, where Imperial Infantry, just Imperial Infantry, that's it. They gain a 5-up invulnerable save against ranged attacks, whilst they're wholly within 9 inches of the Praetor. So, let's just give all infantry, including tactical marines, devastators, whatever, a 5-up invulnerable save just for being within 9 inches of this guy. That's pretty sweet. I have no arguments with that one. And the last one, now this is one I actually do very much like, is the Vasila Magnifica. Your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls in the shooting phase for attacks that target Adeptus Custodes units within 6 inches of any friendly Custodes Vaxilis Praetors with this Vasila. Doesn't say wholly within, just says within, and within 6 inches. So you can have this model walking up the board, and very similar to what the Changeling for Demons did, it's just he walks up the board, you're daisy chaining, units of 3, units of 4, units of 5, whatever, from that 6-inch bubble that he's producing, and they all get -1 to hit. So now you've got guys that are toughness 5. This is the base one, by the way. Toughness 5, 3 wounds, 2-up save, 5-up invuln, and now -1 to hit. You're not getting rid of these guys easy. You're going to need something that can mitigate a lot of this stuff and can cut just straight through armor and invulnerable saves, and there is nothing out there that gets to do all of that. So no matter what, you have some sort of a way to mitigate somebody from doing damage to you. Awesome. All right, moving on from the Praetor in the Terminator armor, we also have just the Vasila Praetor, essentially the exact same thing, just not in the Terminator armor. So he loses 1 of the wounds. He goes from 6 down to 5, loses the ability to deep strike in, but he does gain the ability to carry a storm shield, which will give him a 3-up invulnerable save. So it's your choice on that one, depending on what you play against. Normally, if you want to get the extra wound, you can definitely do that. If you want to go ahead and get the 3-up invulnerable save, you can do that. There is a minor points difference between the two, but it's up to you. Personally, I would take the Terminator that can deep strike because that's just sweet. Speaking of deep striking, we have the Adeptus Custodians. Now these are the base Custodians, elite choice, that just come in straight up Terminator armor. They have 4 wounds, they have 4 attacks, they have a 2-up save, they have a leadership 9, every other stat is exactly the same. They have the grenade launcher, which does awesome stuff. They can take the axe, they can take the spear. They don't get to take the shield, but that's not a big deal because they have 2 special rules here. One is from Golden Light where they can deep strike in. So keep that in mind. These guys can deep strike in just naturally. So when I get on later on talking about some of the crazy tricks you can do with them, keep them in mind. Also on top of that, keep in mind that they have the axe, which gives them the +3 of their strength. So now these guys are these are Terminators with 4 attacks at strength 8, -2 D3 damage apiece. That's even scary to a Land Raider, like just a straight up toughness 8, 2-up save, 16 wound Land Raider. I'm pretty sure a unit of 3 guys like this could just wipe right through that fairly easily. So anyway, they also have a special ability here called Slayer of Tyrants, where when this model makes a pile in and consolidate, they can move up to 3 inches towards the nearest enemy character, even if it's not the nearest enemy model, so long as they finish this move within 1 inch of an enemy unit. Okay. So a lot of people read that like, okay, yeah, we can pile into characters. No, it says you can pile into the nearest enemy character as long as you end within 1 inch. So if you have these guys here, they've charged, there's nothing else around them, and there is a unit here that you don't want to deal with, but there's another unit over here that's a little bit further away, but there's a character on this side of the board, you can declare, you know what, I'm going to pile in closer to that enemy character. You don't have to go into the unit that you don't want to deal with. You can pile into the other unit. They essentially get free pile-ins whenever they want to go, as long as it's ending closer to an enemy character. That's awesome! They're not restricted to the closest enemy unit. They are restricted to the closest enemy character as long as they end within 1 inch. People have characters all over the board. People have characters like spread out all everywhere. A lot of people like to just hide characters. Nurgle, for example, will hide Epidemius somewhere in the back corner. You can declare you're going to move closer to that model and then pile in away from a unit to get yourself 6 inches closer, because you have the consolidate and the pile in that you chain together for a 6-inch move. If what you charged is dead, and you get to go 6 inches towards something closer. With these Terminators, it's amazing. So I like that rule. I think that rule is awesome. And again, it plays into some of the other things you can do with them later on. Moving on from them, we've got the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought. Again, this hasn't changed at all from how it was in the index. Has the stat profile, movement 9, weapon skill, skill 2+. It degrades progressively from 9 inches to 6 inches to 4 inches, and then from 2 to 3 to 4 for the weapon skill and ballistic skill. That's on the table. It has 10 wounds, strength toughness 7, 4 attacks, 2-up save, 5-up invulnerable save from atomic shielding. It can take a combi bolter, which is rapid fire 2, strength 4, AP nothing, 1 damage. The assault cannon, which is a heavy 6, strength 7, -1, 1 damage. The multi-melta, heavy 1, we know what that one does. 8, -4, d6 damage, roll 2 dice, pick the highest if you're within 12. And then the Dreadnought close combat weapon, which is essentially strength 14, -3, 3 damage apiece. That's pretty self-explanatory on that one. It does have, though, the Unyielding Ancient rule, where every time this model loses a wound, you roll a die, and on a 6, it ignores that wound or ignores that damage, and the wound is not lost. Sweet, awesome. A even tougher to kill Dreadnought. Moving on from them, we've got the fast attack, the Virtus Praetors. Basically these guys. I like you. You get work done. All right, this is about to fall off its base. Ah, that's how you break models, Quirk. Yep, I just broke them. Get back on your base. There we go. Okay. So, essentially these guys have the very similar stat line to what you saw with the Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle Jet Bike. Movement 14, weapon skill, bliss skill 2+, strength 5, toughness 6, 4 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 9, and a 2-up save. They have that 5-up invulnerable save from the Aegis. They can take all the same weapons that the Shield Guard Captain could, so the Hurricane Bolter, the Salvo Launcher. They have the Interceptor Lance, and they can also go ahead and spend a couple points and take that little jabby knife if they want to. They also have Implacable Vanguard, where they can move 6 inches they can advance 6 inches in the movement phase without having to roll a die for it. Pretty straightforward. I just like the fact that you can have heavy bolters on these 3 guys that are rapid fire 6, put a Shield Guard Captain nearby them, and now they are 12 shots apiece, so it's going to be 36 rapid firing bolters, hitting on 2s, probably wounding on 4s if you're targeting, chaff or something like that, probably wounding on 3s if they're toughness 3, but you're hitting on 2s, re-rolling, so those 36 hits, probably going to get you 36 out of 36, just saying, unless I'm rolling, in which case you're going to get 0 out of 36, and the strength 4 will definitely do some damage, so absolutely love that. In the game that I tested, I even had just the Shield Guard Captain on his own throw 12 shots into Mortarion and did some damage. That was one guy by himself. You put 3 of them nearby, they are going to mow down some stuff. They can even do damage to pretty much anything with that volume of fire. So, And then the last entry that we have in here is the Venerable Land Raider. Again, this has a degrading stat line, so it has a movement 10, which drops down to 5, which drops down to 3 as the 16 wounds drop, with skill 2+ to 3+ to 4+. Attacks go from 6 to d6 to 1. So, kind of how that works there. Anyway, weapons that it can come with, it naturally comes with 2 twin last cannons, which are heavy 2, strength 9, -3, d6 damage. A twin heavy bolter, heavy 6, strength 5, -1, 1 damage. You can pay to give it hunter killer missiles and a storm bolter. Not a big deal there. It does have Power of the Machine Spirit, so it ignores the penalty of moving and firing heavy weapons. It has smoke launchers where once per game you can make your opponent subtract 1 from all the hit rolls from ranged weapons that target this vehicle. Again, that's kind of cool. Has Unyielding Ancient, the exact same as the Dreadnought, which gives him a 6-up ignoring damage. And then, of course, it has the potential of exploding. This does not have a invulnerable save? I thought it did. I was almost positive that this had a invulnerable save, and I am mistaken. Nope, does not have an invulnerable save. I thought it did. So it just has a 6-up ignoring damage. Anyway, moving on from there, we go into the cool stuff here. So we've got the Auric Mortalis. Now this is the stuff you get when you run a full Battleforged Custodian army, and this stuff gets crazy. First off, this ability will apply to all of your infantry, bikers, and in the Adeptus Custodes detachment. So the Emperor's Chosen, this unit's invulnerable save is improved by 1. So everybody I said earlier who has a 5-up invulnerable save, bump that down to a 4-up. Now instead of ignoring 33% of the damage, they're ignoring straight up 50% of all the damage that comes at them. What? What? So now you've got, if you decide to take the Vasila, that gives the bubble of -1 to hit, you've got guys that are toughness 5, 3 wounds, again, base infantry, a 4-up invulnerable save, a 2-up armor save naturally, and straight up just -1 to hit. That's awesome. That is ridiculous. Gone, right? So they have all that. Then on top of that, they also have Sworn Guardians, where it's essentially just objectives secured, which we've seen dozens and dozens of times before. Let's take a look at the stratagems. This is where it starts to get really interesting. First off, we have a very basic one from Golden Light They Come, where it's 1 to 3 command points. Adeptus Custodes, infantry, bikers, and dreadnoughts. You can deep strike them in. You can deep strike 1 unit in for 1 command point, or 2 units in for 3 command points. So, then we have Unflinching for 1 command point. Use a stratagem when your opponent charges. In your opponent's charge phase, choose a Adeptus Custodes unit from your army. When they fire Overwatch, they hit on 5s rather than 6s. That's kind of cool. Then we have one for 2 command points, Unleash the Lions. This one's kind of cool, like super cool. So, use a stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select a unit of Alaris Custodians from your army on the battlefield. That unit immediately splits into separate units, each containing a single model. These are the Terminator guys. These are the ones that are like 4 wounds apiece, just 4-up invuln thanks to the Emperor's Chosen, and now they're individual models. Now your opponent can't just be like, okay, I'm going to fire the thing that's going to take out multiple infantry like that and just wipe out the squad. No, they have to target each one individually. So now you're forcing your opponent to either split fire or waste all of their firepower on 1 model. So that's pretty sweet right there. That's going to frustrate your opponent to no end. Then we have, for 1 command point, the Tanglefoot Grenade. Use a stratagem at the beginning of your opponent's movement or charge phase. This is kind of cool. Choose an enemy unit within 12 inches of a Adeptus Custodian infantry unit from your army. Roll a d6. Your opponent must reduce the unit's movement characteristic or charge distance by the result until the end of the phase. If it has the fly keyword, they're unaffected. Suddenly your opponent's just like, okay, I really need this charge to go off. I'm looking for a 10. You go, no, hang on. I'm going to spend a command point. Rolling a d6. I got a 3. Now you can't make that charge. Good luck rolling a 13. I'm sorry. That's awesome. The fact that you can just straight up counter someone's charge, or if somebody spends a ton of command points and banking on like a 6-inch charge and you go ahead and roll and you're like, I just rolled a 6. You now need a 12. I'm sorry. That's awesome. The fact that you can just shut down someone's assault that quickly is amazing. So, I like it very much. Next up, for 2 command points, Ever Vigilant. Use a stratagem immediately after your opponent sets up a unit that is arriving on the battlefield as reinforced within 12 inches of an Adeptus Custodes infantry unit from your army. This unit can immediately shoot at the enemy as if it were your shooting phase, but must subtract 1 from all the resulting hit rolls. Sure, that means if something deep strikes in and you've got, I don't know, a bunch of guys with the Sentinel Spears, okay, they're rapid fire 1, you're landing within 12 of them, because you have to. Now you're going to get let's say 10 shots, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s if you have a shield captain nearby, and then they're strength 4, so you're going to be wounding on probably 4s, maybe 5s, not a big deal, but the -1/2 damage apiece, that's going to wipe out some stuff. That's going to frustrate your opponent. That's going to make them not want to try and deep strike really close or within charge range of your units. Again, another deterrent from having these guys get forced into being like charged. I like it. Next up, for 3 command points. Now this is the big one. This is the one that has a bit of a combo with it, and I'll get to that once we get into the relics. Use a stratagem at the end of your movement phase when you set up any teleporting Adeptus Custodes unit at the end of the phase. You can set it up wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Velis Praetor, so the guys that carry the standards. Other than one that was set up this turn, that makes sense. You can't deep strike one in and just be like, okay, now I'm going to use this. But it has to be more than 3 inches away from an enemy model and cannot be set up. Any models that can't be set up this way are destroyed. So you can take this guy who's got the banner, stick him deep strike him up far, like a good ways up the board, have him sit there for a turn if you need to, and then, now keep in mind there's other tricks to this one, but this is just the basic one. And the next turn, advance him up as far as you possibly can, deep strike in your Terminators because they can deep strike and they're Custodian infantry, and now your Terminators that are 4 attacks apiece, strength 8, -2, D3 damage apiece, are 3 inches away from their charge target. That's so good. So, and again, there's other tricks to doing that to make it even more effective, but that's just the base one. Like, that's just the let's spend 3 command points. And then if for some reason you also have Valoris on the battlefield, you can say, now that I spent those 3 command points, I'm going to get D3 back. Oh, look, I got 2 of them back. It essentially only cost me 1 command point. So good. All right. Then we have another basic one, open the vaults, 1 to 3 command points. You can take an extra relic or an extra 2 relics for 3 command points. Then we have, for 1 command point, Avatars of the Emperor. Use a stratagem at the beginning of your morale phase. Choose an Adeptus Custodes unit from your army other than a vehicle. You can use that unit's leadership characteristic when taking morale tests for friendly Imperium units within 6 inches of that unit this phase. Okay, well there's a couple guys in here that are leadership 9, leadership 10, so you can go ahead and call that out and say, okay, they're going to use his leadership instead of their leadership 8, or something's modifying the leadership of that unit. You can use that to kind of boost yourself up a little bit. It might help you out. I can't see that one being used very, very often, but it might come in handy. Next up, for 1 command point, Shoulder the Mantle. Another way to kind of mess up your opponent. Use a stratagem when your warlord is slain. Choose a shield captain on the battlefield from your army. They become your warlord. Choose or generate a warlord trait for them immediately. For the purpose of the mission, your warlord is not considered to have been slain whilst this model is on the battlefield. Okay, sure, why not? Let's just deny someone a victory point there by saying you didn't kill my warlord. Another one here. This one I got really, really excited about at the beginning, and I actually had a chance to test it out and was like, it's a big investment for this to work. It's still very cool. If you play a larger game like 3,000 points or an Apocalypse, this is actually a very, very cool stratagem. But at 2,000 points, you're wasting a lot of points to try and pull this one off. For 1 command point, Networked Machine Spirits. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase. Choose a Venerable Land Raider from your army and at least 1 other friendly Venerable Land Raider that is within 6 inches of that model. None of the chosen models suffer any penalties to their hit rolls until the end of the phase. So, what's up, Eldar, that are -2, spending a command point -3 to shooting, like the Flyers and the Rangers and stuff like that? Take this. My Land Raiders now just hit on 2s, naturally. Sorry. Awesome. All right. Then we have another one here for 1 command point. Indomitable Guardians. Use a stratagem in your opponent's fight phase after an enemy unit that is charged has fought. Choose an Adeptus Custodian unit from your army that is within 3 inches of an objective marker and fight with it next. It is essentially a cheaper version of the 2 command points, I'm going to stop you from fighting and fight. And it also makes it so that you don't have to do it right after the first one. So what you could do is say, you know what, my opponent just charged me with 3 different units. They fought with that first one. I'm now going to spend 2 command points to interrupt here. And then they're going to fight with something else. And now that that's fought, I'm going to spend another command point and interrupt here. So they're bringing in a nice little bit of a way to mitigate some of the damage you're going to take from charges. Next up, we have another one here for 1 command point, Inspire Fear. Use a stratagem at the beginning of your morale phase. Choose 1 of your Adeptus Custodian units other than a vehicle. Your opponent must add 1 to the morale test taken for the enemy units within 3 inches of that unit in this phase. So essentially, for 1 command point, you can either force your opponent to spend 2 command points to auto pass. If they don't have that, you can add 1 to the morale test. Now, if they're already losing, say, you know, D6 minus 2. You can spend this now as D6 minus 1. Unless they roll a 1, they're losing models. And now if they roll a 6, they're losing even more models. So, or any other difference. They're losing more models. For 1 command point, could make a difference, especially if you're dealing with things that are kind of a pain to kill. So. Next up, we have for 2 command points, Sentinel Storm. Use a stratagem at the end of your opponent's shooting phase. Choose one of your Adeptus Custodian units that are within 1 inch of an enemy unit. The unit you choose can shoot with their Sentinel Blades as if it were your shooting phase. It's 2 command points to essentially fire your pistol blades in close combat before you go into combat. It's 2 command points, a little bit risky, a little bit expensive, but I mean, if you put a lot of Sentinel Blades in a unit, it could make a difference. So. Next up we have, for 1 command point, Burst Missile Net. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase when choosing a unit of veteran praetors from your army to make their ranged attacks, so again the bike guys. If they all fire Flak missiles at the same target with the Flak keyword, you can re-roll failed wound rolls for those attacks. So these are the ones that are heavy D3, strength 7, minus 1 D3 damage, and you get +1 against things that fly, so it kind of mitigates the heavy portion of it. Or the hard to hit portion, or whatever it is. With this, you essentially spend a command point, you're going to get to reroll to wound. So usually with strength 7, if you're shooting something that has fly, you're probably wounding on 3s. Getting the reroll could help mitigate some of the 1s and 2s you'll roll. Not bad. Next up, we have for 1 command point, Spark of Divinity. Use a stratagem when an enemy psyker manifests a psychic power within 12 inches of an Adeptus Custodian infantry or Adeptus Custodian biker unit from your army. You can take a Deny the Witch test for the unit as if it were a psyker. Since the army doesn't really have any psychers to begin with, having a command point in there that you can just be like, you know what, I really don't want that spell to go off. I'm going to spend a command point to try and stop it. You're still getting the command point to try and stop something, but it's another way to mitigate some of the damage you could suffer in the psychic phase. Not that bad. And again, you're going to notice a lot of things in here are only 1 command point. GW knew ahead of time that it's going to be very difficult for people to get tons of command points in this army. So they made the really good ones 3 command points, and everything else is very aptly priced. Next up we have, for 1 command point, Plant the Vasila. Yeah. Use a stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Choose a Valeris Praetor from your army that did not move this phase. You can increase the range of the Custodian's Vasila ability for that model by 6 inches until your next movement phase. The Valeris Praetor that you choose cannot charge this turn. So essentially you're forfeiting a Vasila's movement and charge to extend the range by 6 inches. That might help in certain scenarios, but for the most part, that 6-inch difference is just what the model moves anyway. So unless you're starting to split very, very hard with your units, it's not that big of a deal. Next up we have for 1 command point, Piercing Strike. Use a stratagem when you select a Adeptus Custodian unit from your army to attack in the fight phase. Add 1 to the wound rolls made for that unit's Guardian Spears until the end of the phase. Ooh. Guardian Spears are essentially getting Veterans of the Long War. Oh, that's so good. So, I like it. I think it's cool. I mean, it's only 1 command point. You get to add 1 to the wound rolls. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that any day. So, for 2 command points, we have Inescapable Vengeance. Use a stratagem when you select a unit of Valeris Custodians from your army to make their attacks with the shooting phase. You can target enemy characters with their attacks, even if they're not the closest enemy model. Now again, these are the Terminator ones, I believe. So they kind of either take the axe or the spear. Hang on, where are you? There you go. So their shooting is basically the same either way with the axe or the spear. It's rapid fire 1, strength 4, -1, 2 damage apiece. Sure, why not? I mean, if you have a guy there who's a character who's got 2 wounds remaining, all he needs for one of these to sneak through and it's going to kill him. So go for it. It might save you a bit of hassle later on. Next up we have one that we see all the time, 1 command point, Wisdom of the Ancients. You can essentially make one of your dreadnoughts a captain for a turn where all the Adeptus Custodians within 6 inches of it get to reroll their hit rolls of 1. Okay, cool, why not? Then for 1 command point, Celestin Strike. Use a stratagem when you select one of your Adeptus Custodes units to attack in the fight phase, as long as more than 1 model in this unit is attacking with the axe. Then they all target the same unit, improve their AP of the unit's axes to -3 until the end of the phase. So 1 command point, you can make your axes go from -2 to -3. Could help, depends on what you're fighting. I mean, if you're fighting something that has a 2-up save, you want them to go from a -4 or a 4-up save to a 5-up save, sure, go for it. Might help. You never know. It all comes down to the dice at the end. Concussion Grenades. This one's really cool. Use a stratagem in the shooting phase when you choose a Adeptus Custodian unit from your army to attack. Until the end of the phase, their grenade launchers have an AP characteristic of 0, and infantry units that are hit by these attacks are stunned until the end of the turn. They cannot fire Overwatch, and your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls made for the unit. Okay, that's really good. That's super good. 1 command point. Thump. All right, now I don't have to worry about taking Overwatch from you. Go bikes, go. Charge in. Go Terminators, go. Charge in. Go whatever, charge in. It's infantry, but still, that could shut down an entire, like, oh geez, if you were charging a guard blob of any kind and you just don't want to deal with all that Overwatch because it might sneak through the armor a little bit, just fire one of these grenades into them. There we go. Now you're not hitting and you're -1 to hit me. So now you're hitting on, I think it's 6s in melee. Ugh, gross. Another one here for just if you're playing Maelstrom of Wars. 1 command point, Eyes of the Emperor. Use a stratagem when you generate a tactical objective. You can discard that tactical objective immediately and generate a new one. Sure, why not? You draw one you don't like, toss it away, get a new one. For 2 command points, Victor of the Blood Games. Use a stratagem when you set up Adeptus Custodes character from your army during deployment. You can reroll 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll, and 1 save roll for this model in each turn. Okay. So, it gets so good. It's so good. You can make. It doesn't even say named character. You can't do it to named characters. No, you can do it to named characters. You can give it to Valeris. Okay. Centering myself. All right, we're good. That's just really good. 2 command points. Yeah, I'll pay that to give him where he can reroll 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll, and 1 save roll each turn. Yeah, that's going to save you so many command points for rerolls. It's going to save you, oh, it's 2 command points, but I could, so good. All right, moving on. Another one for characters, 2 command points, even in death. Use a stratagem when your Adeptus Custodes character from your army is slain. Before removing the model from the battlefield, it can immediately either shoot as if it were the shooting phase or fight as if it were the fight phase. We've seen this a couple different times in different codexes. Still super awesome to have that for 2 command points. Definitely worth it. Another one that we have here is for 1 command point, Avenge the Fallen. Use a stratagem when you select an Adeptus Custodes unit from your army to attack in the fight phase. The unit, until the end of the phase, increase the attacks characteristic of each model in the unit by 1 for each model from that unit that was slain this turn. So, that's kind of good. That's kind of good. Because the thing is, it's not a timing thing. You can just, that's so good. You got a unit of 5 guys. 3 of them died. Now each of them get 3 extra attacks. So they go from 3 attacks each to 6 attacks each. That's 12 attacks. Yeah, I'm down. I'm so down. So anyway, then we got 2 more left here. 1 command point, Bringers of the Emperor's Justice. Use a stratagem when when a custodian, I'm just gonna say Custodes from here on. Unit from your army is chosen to attack in the fight phase. Each time you make a hit roll of 6+ for that model for a model in that unit this phase, it can, if it was targeting a Heretic Astartes unit, immediately make an extra attack against the same unit using the same weapon. If it was targeting a Black Legion unit, instead makes extra attacks on a hit roll of 4+. These extra attacks do not then generate further attacks. Essentially, you get the, I forget what it's called for Chaos, but essentially whenever Chaos attacks me with Imperium on a 6 to get an extra attack, for 1 command point, you get the same thing going up against Heretic Astartes. So that's kind of cool. And the last one here. Oh, I like this one. 3 command points, Swooping Dive. This was a bit long, but hang on, bear with me here. Use a stratagem at the end of your opponent's charge phase. Choose an Adeptus Custodes biker unit from your army that is within 12 inches of an enemy unit. You can declare a charge with the unit as if it were the charge phase. If your unit charges successfully, that unit fights before all other units in the subsequent fight phase, even before charging units. If your opponent has any units with the similar abilities, you take turns resolving them beginning with your opponent. So, that is the best counter charge stratagem I have ever seen. Take a unit of 3 bikers. Stick them 12 inches away from pretty much everything that's about to get into combat. Wait for your opponent to charge in with everything they want to charge in with. If they didn't charge the bikes can spend 3 command points and countercharge them. If you really want to mess with your opponent, you can do the thing where you spend a command point and you roll a d6 and subtract that from your opponent's charging ranges. Then, if they don't make any of the charges, you can countercharge him for 3 command points and go flying in and attack before anybody else, including your opponent. What? That is so good! On top of that, the bikes get a bonus when they charge, so the lances are now going to get to reroll to wound. Okay, we're done with the stratagems. Moving on from the stratagems, because I'm just going to keep going for a little bit here. We go on to the relics. Now this is where things start to get a little bit crazy. This is where command points start just flying away like it's nothing. But at the same point in time, it gets so good. So, first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the 4 weapons on here, or sorry, 5 weapons on here because they're kind of cool. First off, we have the Gatekeeper, where it replaces the Guardian Spear that a model can have. It essentially goes from Rapid Fire 1 to Rapid Fire 3, AP -1, 2 damage, Strength 4. Okay, we've seen that. In melee, it's +1, AP -3, D3 damage. But when it overwatches, it successfully hits on a roll of 3+ rather than 6. I can dig it. It's range 24, so if you're getting charged, it's 6 shots, Strength 4, -1, 2 damage apiece. I can dig it. Then we have the Veiled Blade. The Veiled Blade replaces the Sentinel Blade. Essentially, it is Pistol 2, Strength 4, AP nothing, 1 damage, melee Strength user, -3, D3 damage. But each time the bearer fights, whilst they're within 3 inches of an objective, they can make 2 additional attacks with this weapon. It's kind of cool. Again, I don't really see that one getting picked compared to some of the other ones in here. Emperor's Light! This is for the tiny little shiv that everybody can take. It's essentially AP -2, 1 damage, but each time the bearer fights, make 1 additional attack with this weapon, unless it's also equipped with a Storm Shield. In addition, add 1 to the morale test taken by enemy units that are within 12 inches of the bearer. So you can tag that one on with one of the command points and add 2 to the morale test that your opponent has to make. The Obliteratium. I hope I said that right. It replaces the grenade launcher, and it has a weapon profile of range 12, assault 1, strength 10, AP -4, and D3 damage. So that's kind of cool right there. And then the last one that we have here for weapons-wise is the Fulminaris Aggressor. It's for the Vasila, essentially. The Fulminaris Aggressor replaces the Vasila, loses the Custodian Vasila ability, and instead all friendly Imperium infantry and bikers in 6 inches of the bearer automatically pass morale tests, and furthermore, the Aggressor has a fallen weapon profile in shooting. Range 8, Assault D6, Strength 4, AP -1, 1 damage. In melee, Strength +2, -1, 1 damage. And attacks made with this weapon's shooting profile automatically hit. Take that minus everything to hit. So, okay. Moving on from the weapons, we've got the actual cool abilities that these guys can take. For starters, we have the Remnant of Sorrows. Roll a d6 each time a friendly Adeptus Custodes infantry or biker unit is destroyed within 6 inches of the bearer. Before removing the model as a casualty on a 4+, that model musters 1 last surge of strength before succumbing to its wounds. It can either shoot with one of its weapons as if it were the shooting phase, or make a single attack as if it were the fight phase. You cannot use an even in death stratagem on this model that does so. 4+. Shoot again, attack again. Go for it. That's pretty sweet. I like it. The thing is, it applies to infantry and bikers. So you can throw it on a bike squad, have a just dude flying by with this and go, you know what, I'm going to die. 4+, he's going to shoot you one more time with the salvo launcher or the rapid fire 6 weapon. So, yeah. That's kind of cool. Eagle's Eye. Eagle's Eye is just straight up awesome. Improve the model's invulnerable save by 1 to a maximum of 3+. Quick note here, it doesn't say anything about whether a model already has an invulnerable save, so you can't throw it on like a Land Raider and say, okay, you know what, now it has a 6 up because it didn't have one before. It does not say that. The Auric Aquilus. Biker model only. This model has a 3-up invulnerable save. What? In addition, you can reroll failed charge rolls made by this model. What? That's so good. That is so good. And the thing is, it says biker model only. It doesn't say like character biker model or shield guard biker model. So you could grab a unit of 3, throw it on one of them, give him a 3-up invulnerable save, and now that unit can reroll charges. So, okay. That's kind of cool. Obviously something you'd want to throw on a shield guard captain, give him a 3-up save, and then also on top of the 3-up save, spend 2 points and give him Victor of the Blood game so he can re-roll a failed hit, wound, and save. Now he's got a 3-up save that he can re-roll once per game automatically without spending a command point. That's awesome. So, the Praetorian Plate. Now this is where it gets, this is where I get to the whole, like this gets really, really wonky and awesome. So the Praetorian Plate is for Terminator model only. When the bearer is set up, choose a friendly Imperium character. At the end of your opponent's charge phase, if there is an enemy model within 1 inch of that character, you can remove the bearer from the battlefield if they are on the battlefield, and even if they're not on the battlefield, set them up 3 inches of that character and within 1 inch of an enemy model. The bearer is not considered to have charged. Okay. This is where it gets ridiculous. Okay. So, take a Valerian banner holder, put him in Terminator armor. Now he qualifies to take the Praetorian plate. Stick him in Deep Strike because he has the heavenly whatever thing that lets him, or from heaven something. The character he's going to select, make him select a Shield Guard captain on the Dawn Guard bike. Your turn comes, take the Dawn Guard bike, charge, not even charge it, just shoot it as far as you possibly can, 20 inches up the board, and wait for your opponent to do something. Now keep in mind, this is the Shield Guard captain that has the 3-up invulnerable save, re-rolling charges, and can re-roll 1 hit, 1 wound, and 1 thing. So you spent 2 command points for that. Then, your opponent's phase comes. They're going to try and charge him. Sure, let them charge him. If they fail, you can spend 3 command points. You can have the shield, or not the shield, the name character try and get some of those back if you want to. If you have Gulliman in a different detachment, you can try and get them back from there. This is just a ways to kind of recycle your command points. But you can charge with him or he gets charged. Either way, it's the end of the opponent's charge phase and you have a character within 1 inch of enemy models. You then, from Deep Strike, or if he's on the board, take him using the Praetorian plate and put him in combat within 3 inches of him and the other models. You essentially want to do this when your opponent charges, because if he's engaged with them and he wasn't a charge target, he can't be targeted. And he can still swing at those models. That's pretty awesome right there. That's the twofold of it. Third fold is there is a stratagem, which is right here. 3 command points. Again, this gets pretty pricey. This is going to cost you quite a few to do this. And there's other ways around it, but whatever. Vasila Teleport Homer. Now you've got the guy with the Vasila standing within 1 inch of enemy models. You spend 3 command points to do the Teleport Homer. The Teleport Homer can then bring in the Terminator squad that you've had in Deep Strike since turn 1, turn 2, whatever, and you can bring them onto the battlefield within 6 inches of him and 3 inches away from enemy models. So now you've got these Terminators that are amazing at killing everything, deep in your opponent's lines. They can't do anything about it because they can't overwatch the unit when they charge. They can't fight him because he's currently engaged with them. They can't stop that. And it's just, okay, so they're in. They're there, they're fighting. They can charge. It's a 3-inch charge. Unless you roll double ones, which is doable, but very unlikely, you can get them to engage the big charging unit that you want. And essentially, you can plant wherever you want, without having to worry about a 9-inch charge from Deep Strike. That's pretty sweet. The icing on the cake, Dawn Guard Jet Bike is a flyer. It can bail out of combat. So you can then take him, bail him out of combat, go somewhere else, wait for your opponent's next turn, have him charge, do whatever if you have a ton of command points that you've managed to save from Gulliman and the D3 back, and try and rinse, repeat, do it again with something else that's in Deep Strike Reserve, because again, it's not saying once per game on here, it just says when you set up the bearer, I'm just going to make sure that there isn't anything here that says once per game. When you set the bearer, choose. Yeah. No, so you can keep on daisy chaining your Vasila to jump around with the Shield Guard captain. And again, you can give him the Vasila thing that gives him the -1 to hit. You can give him the Vasila thing that gives him an extra attack. So now this guy has 6 attacks in close combat. So good. And then again, he's got 6 attacks, re-rolling, doing all that stuff. And on top of that, if you've got the Vasila still staying with all the Terminators, they now have 5 attacks with those axes that are hitting on 2s, just wrecking everything they need to at strength 8, -2, D3 damage. So, okay, I'm done. There's a lot of steps to it, but the thing is, it's got points, got checkpoints where, you know what, if you got to this point, you don't really need to worry about getting this much further, but if you want to, you can certainly do it, and there's nothing stopping you. It's just get the bike into combat in your opponent's phase. That's it. And then have a bunch of command points left over. But that's it. You can save the 2 command points by not giving the Shield Guard captain the rerolls. That's fine. At the end of the day, the only thing this is going to cost you right off the hop is 1 command point. Because you're taking the relic to put on the bike, which gives them the 3-up invulnerable save, rerolling charges, and the 1 command point to take an extra relic so you can take the Praetorian plate. That's it. You can do that, and you can still jump buddy around with the Vasila to follow the bike. Anything you want to do after that, go right ahead. You can do all the different daisy chain things, dropping Terminators in, whatever you want to do. But the fact that you can take this Vasila and just jump him wherever you want is awesome. So, whew, okay. So yeah, that's it for the Praetorian plate. Amazing relic. Next up we have Wrath and Jealous. Models with the Vasila Magnification only, so again, that's the one that gives them the -1 to hit. Replaces models of Vasila, loses the Custodian Vasila ability. Instead, friendly Imperium infantry and biker units within 6 inches of the bearer in the morale phase automatically pass morale tests, and once per battle in your movement phase, if the bearer does not move, you can roll a d6 for each unit, friend or foe, within 6 inches. Subtract 1 from the result if if what it's being rolled for is a character, or 2 if from the result if the thing being rolled for is Adeptus Custodes. On a 4+, the model being rolled for suffers D3 mortal wounds. So essentially, if you have a character Custodes, he can't be affected by this because 4 -2 becomes a 6, -1 from the character becomes a 7. It's possible to roll 7 on a D6. Essentially, on 6s, you're going to be hurting your own guys, but on 4s, you're doing D3 mortal wounds to anything within 6 inches of him. That's kind of cool right there. Only downside is you can't put 2 relics on the same model, otherwise this would be a disgusting combo. Next up we have the RX Shackles. Your opponent must subtract 1 from the attack characteristic while within 12 inches of enemy characters, whilst they are within 6 inches of the bearer, to a minimum of 1. In addition, in missions that use victory points, if the bearer slays the enemy warlord in the fight phase, you score an additional D3 victory points. That's kind of cool. So, and it says an additional D3 victory points, not you score D3 victory points. So you get the 1 point for killing the warlord, and then an extra D3 points right off the hop from there. That could throw the victory, that could throw it, but it's a tricky one to kind of pull off right there. And then we've got 2 more things left. We have the Castellan's Mark. If the bearer is on the battlefield at the beginning of the game, but before the first turn, you can remove them and up to 1 friendly Adeptus Custodes unit within 6 inches of them from the battlefield and set them up again. Following mission rules, you must set them up on the battlefield. Nice little counter deploy thing right there. It might help. It might be something you use. It might have some sort of a tactic to it. I can't really see one. I don't really find things that alter your deployment when you have most of the stuff on in your army being able to deep strike in. I don't find those to be that big of a thing there. And then the last relic we have in here is Faith Absolute. Models with Vasila Magnifica only. The Faith Absolute replaces the model's Vasila. It uses the Custodian Vasila ability. Instead, friendly Imperium and biker models in 6 inches of the bearer automatically pass morale tests, and the bearer can attempt to deny 1 psychic power in each psychic phase as if it were a psyker. So, another way to get yourself a little bit of anti-psyker magic going on there. But that's it! That is my review of the Adeptus Custodes book. I think it is actually awesome, but you have to really look into some of the different tricks that you can pull. I find that a lot of the armies are going to be very small, maxing out as many command points as they possibly can, so min-maxing is going to be all over the place. You're going to see a lot of units of just Custodes, 3 units, fill in that minimum, so that they can get the extra 3 command points for their armies to give them a 6. And then, you know, you might throw in a Outrider detachment or a Vanguard detachment or something like that. But essentially, a lot of people are going to be striving to get to the 7 command point mark. I can see a lot of people trying to throw Guilliman in here and making him the Warlord just to give them the Warlord trait, or just any Ultramarine model just to give them that Warlord trait of on a 5-up you get command points back. So, yep, I can see that definitely happening. But for the most part, I think the Adeptus Custodes book is awesome. A lot of people are going to disagree with me. A lot of people are going to say it's not. I still think it's sweet. I can't wait to get the rest of my army going here, and I hope you guys feel the same. If you can think of any other stratagems or tricks or things from this book that I haven't mentioned or haven't really, or kind of just briefly touched upon, please leave a comment in the comment section below. If you disagree with how I feel about the Custodes book and think it is utter garbage, go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know why. I know the main thing right now is that most of the models are overcosted, and it makes sense because when you look at their stats, each one is essentially a character. So you're paying character prices for every model, and I get that. I understand it. I still think this is a great book. I don't expect to see it in tournaments, but I do expect to see a lot of the models from this book in tournament lists. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Do me a favor, again, leave a comment in the comment section below about whatever you want to. If you just want to say, hey, Quirk, you're awesome, where'd your beard go? You can go ahead and say that too. But thanks so much for watching. Happy wargaming.